Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about our Airbnb journey from Seville to Porto. So my partner Jo here, as she was there every step of the way, has joined me today. And the first one we're going to talk about is in Seville. So what did you like about the one in Seville, Jo?
It's a great location.
Yeah, great location.
It was pretty walkable to the river,
Yeah.
to restaurants, to the local parks, and there were loads of scooters nearby, which was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good in Seville. There's loads of scooters everywhere, so you could get around really easily, but they were pretty crazy. I'll put the vid up there so you can watch that and you can see what we get up to there. I thought it was really good. I really liked there was like loads of plants and stuff coming off when you walked in. It was really cool. The bed wasn't so great, but it was a banging location and it was the start of the trip, so we were just enthusiastic to be there.
Standards were low.
The standards were low. The standards were set low.
It was new and it was abroad, so we were buzzing.
Yeah, we could have slept on the floor and it wouldn't have mattered. We would have been buzzing either way.
I think it felt more like a hostel, this one.
Yeah?
Because all we had was a room and a bathroom and a weird terrace thing.
Yeah.
But then actually it was like a communal dining area and communal like seats and stuff and kitchen.
And there was a lot of people coming and going through and they were all really friendly and we got chatting with them and it was just a really nice vibe of the whole place.
And it felt like you were outside when you were actually inside in that bit, wasn't it? Because it was like a huge tall...
Yeah, it had the big skylight sort of thing, so it wasn't like any lights, it was just natural light coming down and it was like you were walking from outside to outside. Luckily enough, Airbnb in Lule had a cancellation and this was like an eco Airbnb. It had like a natural spring pool and we were very fortunate to find it, I think, and it all just sort of worked out. You know, sometimes things don't go to plan, but it doesn't go to plan for a reason.
And it not going to plan ended up being one of the best days, I think, of our trip, and definitely the best breakfast of our trip.
The breakfast, the breakfast was great.
Best breakfast of my life.
Really, you'll hold it to that. Yeah, they were a great host and it was really comfy. It was out in the middle of nowhere, it was really quiet and yeah, it was just a really nice stay to start off Portugal and I think we were very lucky to find it.
So the location was just outside of Lule, so it felt like you were in the middle of nowhere, but actually it's like a 10-minute drive, 5 minutes of that on a country road, all bumpy and rocky, and then we dropped down into Lule. So the guy had bought like hectares of land, so there was nothing nearby, and he was gradually developing the area around it. So it was like a project, and it felt really like he was almost including you in it to be like, at that time he was working on a cabin in the woods, and he'd just finished there was a donkey barn. What were we in? The pigs?
The pig barn, I think, or the pig.
Yeah.
Something, but it was all named after animals, and it was very like unique, I thought, and you could go up on the rooftop and we watched the sun go down from there and watch the stars. It was just it was perfect and beautiful. We also took a dip in the pool and that was not very warm at all, but it was a nice way to wake yourselves up, and it was a natural spring pool, so it felt really good, and we were just buzzing to be there because it felt like we hit the jackpot with this Airbnb.
The Airbnb had a lovely cat, 2 cats that were desperate to try and get into your rooms, but I think they were farm cats, if they were free range, stayed outside.
Yeah, it's to stop all like the mice and the vermin coming in, so they all stay outside, but in the morning it was like scratching to get at the door and we were just sitting by the step when we woke up and it was coming over for cuddles. It was a very nice way to wake up.
What we really liked was that it was an eco Airbnb, so they generated all their own power from solar panels on the roof. The eco pool, so I didn't know what eco pool was before staying here, but it's a pool that's just generated from natural water supplies. So this was water that he'd got from some sort of like a river that fed into it.
Yeah, it was in a side of a valley, so the water ran down the side of a valley, and then he found a way to irrigate the water through into the pool, and then not only did it go into the pool, once it had been recycled through the pool and they needed to get that because it was essentially dirty water, people had been swimming in it, they then used that water to then go through and feed all the plants and the crops in the garden, so there's no water wasted in a pool. It went through and then did other things to feed the plants later on.
And then for breakfast they'd use all natural herbs grown in the garden. The soap was homemade through their local business of creating bath products. It was vegan, so first of all, like, that's good for the planet.
Yeah, everything was vegan, like the food, the breakfast. We'll go back to the breakfast. The breakfast was astonishing, especially the pancakes. The pancakes were like really fluffy but crispy also. And just they had scrambled tofu, and everything was vegan and delicious. And we didn't even, like, because we're obviously vegan, and we didn't even realise until we got there and we spoke to the guy about, oh, is it going to be a problem, cater? And he's like, we're vegan anyway, it will be a vegan breakfast. It was music to our ears.
And I think price-wise, I think we really lucked out. I think because we booked it like the night before, they were just desperate to get rid of the room, so I think we got it pretty cheap. But it's in like all these big magazines and stuff, so.
Yeah, and I think it's because we came in the winter, so it was November when we stayed there, so it was down season. So I think we paid, it was like €60 to stay there for a night, but I imagine in the summer it will be maybe double that, because it was astonishing, and we couldn't believe how lucky we were to stay there.
And it was such a better bed than the last place as well.
Yeah, the bed in
So
Seville
comfy.
had like this dip in the middle, and then this one was like this perfectly smooth, flat, nice and solid, comfy bed, and it was a lot bigger, so yeah. So after we left Lule, we went on a little hike up a mountain, and then we headed to the west coast. And on the west coast, it wasn't quite on the coast, but it was about, I don't know, 10 kilometers from the coast. We stayed in a little historical town called Algeciras, or I don't know, I keep on saying that, but I'm definitely pronouncing it wrong.
No one understands where it is when you tell them we've been.
Yeah, but that's how it looks like, and that's how I say it. I'm very dyslexic. But it doesn't matter, I'll show you on a map now. So that is where it is, and when we arrived there, we'd drive in the hire car through this town, and it had quite a big hire car, and there was just these narrow streets. I was like, please don't scratch it, trying to drive through. And then we had to turn up this big hairpin bend, up this really steep hill, and then park at the top of the steep hill, like this, and then just leave it there. But the Airbnb itself was really small and tiny. It had like a little upstairs you go to where the bed was. It had a kitchen, shower, a little living room. It was cozy, and it was a very nice change, and it was in the middle of nowhere, and we had this great view of the town.
It almost felt like a ski chalet. It was very compact.
Yeah.
There was everything we needed, and any more than 2 people would have been a nightmare, but
Yeah, it would have been a squeeze.
we were fine. I think we were getting used to kind of travelling together by then, that a small space was alright.
Yeah, and I really liked it as well because it had a kitchen. It was like the first place we had stayed at that had its own kitchen. So we were like eating out everywhere we could, and then all of a sudden we had a kitchen. So I thought that was just fantastic, because then we just ate in, and we saved a bit of money by doing that, and just eating in, cooking good food, and just spending the evenings in together was very chilled compared to just rushing around cities, driving like, you know, hundreds of miles. It was nice to just get to a location and just chill out there and have our own, you know, home comforts and cook what we wanted.
It was a pretty good location in terms of getting to nice surf spots that weren't too far. So a good one for you and a good one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good location to get to the beach. Like I said, it was like 10 miles away or something, so we could get there in 15 minutes. And there was a lot of stuff to do around. There was like castles and nice walks. And yeah, it was a beautiful little town, and it was just very tranquil. And I would definitely love to go back there and check it out. Maybe spend longer, because I feel like it'd be a good hub for that area, because there's loads of surf spots around. If you wanted to go on excursions, you can hit a couple of different areas on that coast within, you know, half an hour, 20 minutes or so.
So like in summary, it had everything we needed. It was pretty cheap. We could cook, so we could save, and it was really close to everything we wanted to do.
We went up to Peniche, and it's very famous for their beach break there called Super Tubos, which is this like heavy barreling wave. And basically we got a taxi from Ericeira to Peniche, and it dropped us straight off at our next Airbnb. However, this Airbnb was in the middle of nowhere. It was literally, we hadn't really planned it that well. We thought Peniche wasn't that big, or I didn't think it was that big. And it was really far from it. It was like a half an hour walk into town. And it just took us it just took us a bit by surprise, I think. So like the first night we got there, we walked to the shop, and I had a backpack and we carried it back. But the Airbnb, I thought it was the biggest one we've had so far, and it was quite nice. But one of the things that really annoyed me about this Airbnb was there was not one comfy chair in the whole place. It had about 8 chairs in there and not one of them was comfy. And yeah, we weren't very well at that point as well. We had a bit of a cold and we just wanted to chill out and relax, and we didn't. It was just like not one comfy chair, so we ended up like staying some time in the bed, and then that wasn't comfy either because it was like one of those memory foam ones. This is me complaining now. And I just don't like memory foam ones. I just think they're like, you sink into them, and I'd like a really like hard, solid one, and like this I was just like sinking in and it wasn't do great for my back. But that's fine.
Yeah, I think it was like the interior design of it was very like, people that want to go to the beach, let's just put a load of starfish on the wall. I think it was very DIY with a lot of their art and stuff. I definitely think they just kind of glued some sand to a piece of paper and put it in a frame and stuff like that.
Yeah, it wasn't very like well thought out, the design. Like a lot of them, you go to them and they're like, this is like breathtaking, this must have been done by a professional. And then that was literally looked like it had been done by a 5-year-old child.
That's what you want, is you want to go in and feel like it's a luxury. I think that's what you want from Airbnb. It's different from my home, but I felt like a lot of that stuff I would put in my own place. But it was big. It had loads of stuff, like stuff for us to cook, you know, a blender, things like that, which was great.
Yeah, the kitchen was really well kitted out.
It had a balcony that we could keep the surfboards on, dry the wetsuits on, which was pretty good. Had a telly, had a bath.
Had a bath, yeah, it's the only one we've had that has had a bath so far, and that was really nice. So I imagine in the summer it'd be a bit more bustling when it was warmer, but it literally rained for about 5 days when we were there. And the only thing we could do was surf, so we literally just walked, went surfing, came back, walked, went surfing, came back. Yeah, which was nice, but like we didn't really see anybody other than each other, and
maybe that was the issue.
Yeah.
I think
we got on each other.
Location was rubbish for like going to the shop, getting into town, things like that.
Yeah.
But to be able to suit up in the house and walk over to the beach was like ideal, like a 5-minute walk to the surf.
So after Peniche, we went up to Nazareth, and it was sort of a very warm welcome when we got there, I thought. It was a very needed change after a week being in Peniche. And this Airbnb, we were right in the centre of Nazareth. We were about a 2-minute walk from the beach, 2-minute walk from town. And the Airbnb was fantastic. It had the kitchen wasn't very well kitted out, I didn't think, but it had a hob, it had pans, pots, kettle, toaster. It did have stuff. It didn't have an oven, but it was very well kitted out, and it had a fridge. It had a really nice sofa and living area with a little balcony that went out, and you could see the street, see the beach. And then it had this ladder that went up, and then basically in the middle of the room there was a bathroom. And then on top of the bathroom was the bedroom. So you went up this ladder, and then on this little like balcony in the roof, there was 2 glass panels either side and a bed, and that's where we slept. And it was a
workout to get up those stairs.
Yeah, it was a workout. So you only knew you went up there to go to bed, but it was really nice. I had a great sleep there. I thought
you needed a fireman's pole to get back down because your whole foot wouldn't fit on the step, so you had to walk down sideways. And just thankfully we didn't do it too
Or a slide, that would have been the slide.
But overall it was like decorated really nice. It was really well thought out. The host communication was great as well. So
Ricardo was great.
I think had a thing for me.
Yeah.
I'll get so many emojis from Ricardo every day, just checking on our stay, and he let us check in 4 hours early. They let us keep our luggage there for a whole day after we left, so we could go and see the toe challenge, and it was just crazy. Like he was decent, Ricardo.
Yeah, it was good. It was a great stay. It was a really nice. I would have stayed longer there. It was good. We only booked originally for 2 nights, 3 nights, I think it was, and we ended up staying a week. That brings us to our last one, which is this one right by here in Porto. Now, this is a spectacular one. The design of it is great. It even has this upstairs by here that has like another room to it and a shower with this like frosted window. Yeah, it's a beautiful one. Jo picked this out herself. You were very keen on staying here. And why did you pick this one?
I think so many of them in Porto looked really nice and really like cool design and stuff. But this one was pretty cheap. It had a cool kind of upstairs bit. Yeah, I don't really know why I picked it, but you know when you just know like there's one that you just favourite. Yeah. It was this one for sure. Yeah. The design is so much nicer than anywhere we've stayed.
Definitely.
Or like a different vibe, like Eco Airbnb was super nice. Yeah. Like different style of nice, like rustic nice, but this is so clean cut. The lighting's amazing. It's very like purpose built. It's the only place you've been trusted with real plants as well throughout the whole of it. It's always fake plants, but there's some real stuff looking pretty alive in here, which is nice. Yeah,
it brings a bit of greenery, it brings a bit of the outdoors in. The only thing I'd say about this is the location is great. It's basically, it doesn't get a lot of natural light and it is pretty cold because the floor is like all marble and it's literally in like this alley and there's no like sunlight getting to it. We're at the bottom floor of like a 4 or 5 story and it is just at this corridor, so doesn't get a lot of like natural light, so it isn't naturally very warm. And it's like when you open the door you have to close the blinds because basically there's a glass door and then there's just people walking through in their street who can like look right in. That's the only like downside.
You wouldn't want to leave, like we don't want to leave your laptop out on the counter because it's like so obvious from the road, but then we're having to like shut the door but try and pull the blinds down from outside the door and it's just the blinds aren't having a good time.
Yeah, it's not ideal. They should be like frosted doors or something, but hey ho, you know.
That would be good.
Yeah.
But
maybe we'll suggest that too.
Bed's comfy.
Yeah, the bed's great.
No bath, that would have been a win because the bathroom's pretty big as well. So
but the shower's great. It's got one of those water fountain ones, you know, with a big head and they just dribble on you.
And like this is all really nice, I think, having like this sofa, this big table, and then this big nice spiral staircase going up.
Okay, so that is all of the Airbnbs we stayed in from Seville to where we are, Porto, and like we did stay in like a couple of other places, but we're not going to rate those because they're not really Airbnbs, so we're only really doing the Airbnbs we stayed in. But now we're going to go back through and rate them. So let's do Seville first. What do you think? Out of 10, what do you think Seville was out of 10?
We're rating what the Airbnb, how good the Airbnb
Yeah, out of 10.
Because our experience there was great, so I think it always brings it up.
Yeah.
But it was probably like a 7, a 6.
Yeah. I'd say Seville was a 6. Like it was good, but it did have a couple of downfalls to it. The location was great. It wasn't very, like the bed wasn't very comfy, but it had everything we needed and we were very ecstatic to be there at the start. So I'd say it's a 6. So the next one is the Eco Airbnb in Lule. The best one, the best breakfast. What do you give that out of 10?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, couldn't top it. It was fantastic. The breakfast was amazing. It was comfy. It had like an eco pool, great sunset.
The host was super nice.
The host was amazing. The vibes were good. The cats were great.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 for the cats.
Yeah, so I'd definitely go back there. So that is a 10 out of 10. The next one we stayed at was in Algeciras. I would rate that a 7 out of 10. Would you agree?
8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, yeah. It was small, but it was nice because it was small, and it was warm because it was small, and it had great kitchen.
Really nice barn door as well, where we could just open up the front of the door, the top half.
That was the thing about it. We got woken up each morning by these cow bells. Like there was a big cow field below, and it was just like cow bells going and that. But it was a nice way to wake up.
7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. Okay, 7.5 out of 10. It was still a good one. Next one we stayed at was in Peniche. What do you reckon?
6 out of 10?
Yeah, I'd give it a 5, maybe not even a 6.
It was well, we're saying it's the same as Seville. Are you saying it's the same as Seville?
Yeah, probably, yeah. 6. Alright, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, the bed wasn't as bad as Seville, but the location was worse, but it was spacious and it was good for surfing. So.
Yeah. 6 out of 10 for Peniche. Nazareth, I'm going to rate Nazareth an 8 out of 10. Do you agree?
Well, what would you change about Nazareth?
Nothing.
What would
It was
get him more
fantastic.
points?
Less stairs. Yeah, it was up 2 flights of stairs, but it wasn't even that bad. There was not a lot I'd change about it. Maybe like the location of the bed, but it was sort of cool that it was at the top of that.
We just never went up there unless we went to bed. We just didn't bother with those stairs.
Yeah.
I'd say 8 out of 10 because maybe that could have been a bit better and it could have had an oven because that would have helped out with the cooking.
But it was comfy, like all the chairs were comfy, loads of different chairs to sit around. Yeah, I'd definitely say 8 out of 10 for that. And then that brings us to this one we're in right here, right now. What would you give it?
8 out of 10, yeah.
8. Ooh. Thing is though, we haven't spent a lot of time in this one, so it's hard to judge it. And literally both days we've been here, we've been out doing touristy things. We've just really slept in here. I did a bit of work here this morning, and we're doing this video here now. So to give it quite high, I would say about a 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because we haven't really experienced it or lived in it. But then again, it's done everything we needed it to do. We've had a comfy bed, we've had a warm shower, and the location is great. So yeah, 8 out of 10.
That's also why we hate Peniche, because Peniche had a rubbish shower.
Yeah, Peniche had a rubbish shower. They had one. You had to hold it up.
It's like an arm workout whilst you're trying to shower.
Yeah, not ideal. Don't recommend that. Do not recommend it. Okay, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.
In Bedos.
In Bedos.